And I say welcome. My name is Willy Silberstein, and joining me today are two musicians, classical music audio producer David Frost and guitarist Mattias Schulstad. You are both very welcome. Let's start with David. David, who are you on the music scene?
Thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to speak with you. I'm a recording producer, and I've been doing this for over 30 years now. Most recently, I work for the Metropolitan Opera, working on their HD broadcasts, but I'm also currently working with the Chicago Symphony and very often with Renee Fleming.
Mattias, describe yourself. Who are you?
I'm a Swedish guitarist who's spent most of his life playing the guitar and trying to express music to people.
How many years have you played?
I think some 26 years, I think, right now.
I wouldn't say that's the beginning of a career, but you're still young, even though you do have quite a lot of experience. So I'd like to get back to you, David. What you do within this music scene, how important to the output of music are you, David?
Recording producers have a lot of input into how a recording is made. They generally help organize the session and choose venues and how the engineering is done and scheduling and budgets and all of that. But at the session, the producer has a very intimate and important relationship with the artist being recorded. There's very often a discussion about the performance and about details of the performance, about the recorded sound, about balances. So there develops hopefully a real trust and respect in this relationship between producer and artist. So it is an important job, in the process of recording, a very important job.
And could you have done as good a job as you do also without Juilliard and your own knowledge of music?
No. I think a classical record producer needs to be a musician, and the fact that I was a classical pianist was very important because I struggled with all of the same things that the musicians that I work with have struggled with. The learning, the striving, the constant self-examination and always wanting to be better. And this is something I understand. And also just having developed the ears early on in your life as a child, always playing music, always listening to music, and having that keen awareness of sound and tiny details of performance. That's all incredibly important to making a successful record producer.
And Mattias, you're one of those many musicians who have been recorded. How important would you, Mattias, say that the role that David has is for music and for recordings?
I think it's absolutely crucial. I know for a fact that David has lifted me in so many ways, on so many levels. Not only as a musician, but I feel as a person.
I want to hear more about that. What did David do to lift you both as a musician and as a person? These are big words, I must say.
Well, there's a quote by one of my heroes, Alicia de la Rocha, about David calling him a conscientious musician. And I think that's true. And I think that we, as musicians, are reflections of who we are as people. And so I think David is a role model both as a person and musician. And
when you say a role model, in what way?
I think a respect and excellence of the craft and a real sense of generosity, I think.
Is he demanding? Should a producer be demanding?
Yes, demanding but specific, which means it's highly achievable. So I really enjoyed that aspect because I knew every time what he asked for, and I incorporated that into my practice.
David, when you hear this, that you have meant so much for Mattias, What's your reaction?
Thank you, Matthias, for such kind words. It's very gratifying to hear that from Matthias. Matthias is such a fine musician and also a very fine person. You know, we've had a very nice and productive relationship, and he was very open at the recording sessions and even for the planning of the sessions. He was very open, discussing anything. So the recording sessions and the planning of the recording sessions were very creative, which I found very satisfying.
Of
So
course.
yeah, it was nice.
How would you describe him as a guitar player?
Matthias's playing, I think, has a lot of nuance and intimacy, and I think he's very interested in exploring, um, you know, the most detailed kind of nuance in his sound. Um, and this actually works very well for recording because the microphones are right there, you know, and you feel like you're right next to Matthias and you can hear all of the incredible detail in his playing. And in a recording, you know, you can really feel so connected and intimate with the guitar. And I think Matthias's playing is perfect for this medium, actually.
And if there would come visitors from Mars and they had never heard guitar, and you would, in words, try to describe guitar music, how would you describe that?
The guitar for me, it's something that goes straight to the soul. It really touches your heart.
And maybe also because most of the time you play solo, that also has an extra dimension, I guess.
Right. I think one unique aspect of the guitar in relation to other instruments is it really has the human touch. You make every single note with the flesh of both hands.
Mattias, why am I sitting here with the two of you? How did you two find each other?
I was recommended to connect with David through an incredible person, Margaret Mercer, who was the longtime program director of WQXR, the New York City classical radio station. I'd made several performances on the air. Those engagements that were live broadcasts led to that we made a kind of informal recording at the radio station, and that grew into this idea of connecting Tárrega and Chopin, and she thought David would be an incredible person to just talk to about this.
And David, from just talking, you have done a lot of work, haven't you? The two of you.
Yeah. Matthias and I spoke, and then we met, and he played for me, and we decided to go ahead with the recording. And I don't want to speak for Matthias, but I think it was interesting for both of us to work on some of this repertoire that's in the recording, especially the Chopin, because I was a pianist, and so these Chopin pieces are known to me, and I've known them my whole life. And I really didn't spend any time uh, listening to these pieces on the guitar ever. And so hearing them on the guitar was a new experience for me. And so that was something that I was learning. And I think what I could share with Matthias is this the history of performance of these pieces that I knew. And I remember asking Matthias whether he could listen to Horowitz playing the Chopin mazurkas or Rubinstein playing the nocturnes, and to get an idea of that style of playing and how does that translate from the piano to the guitar. Chopin himself loved bel canto style writing and singing. He especially liked Bellini, and a piece like the Opus 9 Nocturne on this album is very much influenced by this style. So it's really it's a piano imitating an aria, you know. And then you take the guitar and you have a guitar imitating a piano, imitating a voice, and it's just interesting how this music kind of translates from instrument to instrument. So Mattias and I had a lot of discussion about the Chopin, and I think we helped each other and we learned from each other, and so I think it was a fruitful experience.
And will there be more? Do you plan to work together again?
I'd be happy to. This is up to Mattias whether he has more to do.
Okay. We are in the middle of a pandemic that is shaking everything up. If we start with you, David, how has this affected your work?
The Met Orchestra, as you probably know, and the chorus did this early on. Everybody got their iPhone or their computer and they recorded their own part to a video of Yannick Nézet-Séguin conducting. And then I took all these recordings and I had to sync them up and mix them. The great musicians of the Met Orchestra are very capable of doing something like this. But without the ability to hear each other, it was kind of up to me to create the illusion that they were all hearing each other and feeling each other play. And it actually worked pretty well in the end.
Mm-hmm.
It really did. But I'm only telling this long story as an illustration of how important it is for music to be experienced together, for the musicians themselves, and for the musicians and the audience as well.
Mattias, what's the situation for you in this pandemic?
Before the pandemic, I had just started to play with a great pianist, the Swedish pianist Bengt Forsberg, who's known to many as the musical partner of mezzo-soprano Ann-Sophie von Otter. And we had just done a program of Spanish and Catalan music where we played different things solo, and we played one piece by Manuel de Falla that's written first for the guitar and later for the piano. So we both played that, and then we finished by playing Rodrigo's Concerto d'Aranjuez, the concerto for guitar and orchestra, but in a version with guitar and piano. And then the pandemic came, and we're now scheduled to do the next one in January of next year, and I very much hope that it can go forward.
So, gentlemen, David Frost in New York City, Mattias Schulstad in the beautiful city of Stockholm, Sweden. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here today. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.